Thank you for joining us, and it's time for our news bulletin right here on Luntha Television, live from Bishop Nev Media Center in Lilongwe. And you have me, Patrick Popa. But first, our headlines. Pope Leo XIV to return to Our Lady of Good Counsel. High Court reschedules Namiwa bail hearing to Thursday. Political expert warns Malawi Electoral Commission funding delays for fresh elections could undermine voter confidence in local government polls. In other news, Zambia's President Hichilema rallies students ahead of Thursday's election. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail. Pope Leo XIV will return to the shrine of Our Lady of Good Counsel on September 7th, where he will preside over Mass on the eve of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. The visit will mark his return to the shrine where he went to pray on May 10, 2025, just 2 days after his election as Pope. The shrine, located in the care of the Augustinian Fathers, holds particular significance for the Holy Father, who is himself an Augustinian. We have a Rome report read by Fales Kizombe.
Instead of reassuring the disciples, seeing Jesus walking on the water initially frightened them. Jesus then encouraged them, saying, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Pope Leo explained that the presence of Christ changes circumstances, noting that Peter was able to step out of the boat and walk towards Jesus. However, when fear took over, Peter began to sink, prompting Jesus to reach out and save him. According to the Pope, the Gospel teaches Christians not to be overcome by fear and to remain focused on Jesus, particularly when faced with uncertainty and difficulties. He said, the experience eventually led the disciples to profess their faith, declaring, "Truly you are the Son of God." Pope Leo linked this declaration to another passage in Matthew's Gospel, where Jesus teaches that faith without doubt can overcome seemingly impossible challenges. He said the disciples experienced this truth firsthand as the peace of Christ reached them even while they were surrounded by turbulent waters. The Pope highlighted two important lessons from the miracle. First, Christians should avoid becoming proud as though they are moving backwards instead of making progress. In all circumstances, Pope Leo said Jesus does not abandon his followers. He encouraged the faithful to welcome Christ into their lives through prayer, the sacraments, and listening to God's word. By doing so, he said believers can find in Jesus the peace, light, and strength they need for their journey. Pope Leo concluded his address by praying that the Virgin Mary would help Christians live with complete trust in God, following her example of faith, through which she was proclaimed blessed.
Bishop of the Diocese of Karonga, Martin Mtumbuka, has called on Catholics to go beyond caring for Christians who are already committed to the faith and instead reach out to people who have not yet received Jesus Christ. Marking the call during the opening of a new church at Masugira Outstation in the Diocese of Karonga, Bishop Mtumbuka challenged Christians to draw inspiration from missionaries who came to Malawi more than a century ago and made significant sacrifices in their commitment to spreading the Christian faith. Adams Manolupempe has more in this report.
Mtumbuka said as the Catholic Church in Malawi is commemorating 125 years this year, leaders of outstations, substations, and small Christian communities need to think beyond their existing members and reach out to people who have not received Jesus Christ. He also highlighted the role of the diocese radio station in evangelization, saying it was established to ensure that people across the diocese have an opportunity to hear about Jesus Christ.
I want all of us in the diocese not just to worry about how to look after the Christians who are already very committed, but also to think about Christians who have strayed, to think about people who have not converted. We should be worried about them. In other words, when we have received this good news of salvation, we must share it with others. And the leaders of our stations, substations, even small Christian communities, in their village, in their locality, they shouldn't just think about themselves, but they should also think about all those who have not yet received Jesus Christ. I think this reflects very well the motto of this diocese. We shall go to them. It underlines this desire for us to reach everyone with the good news. Whether they will say yes or no, that's up to them, but we want to reach everyone. Even the existence of this radio, which we created only 6 years after the establishment of this diocese, it was not a joke, but it was my sincere desire, really, that there should be nobody in this diocese who should say he didn't hear about Jesus, that's why he has ended up in hell. I think they'd like to take away that excuse.
In his remarks, Masukila Station chairperson Gabriel Msukwa said the opening of the new church has brought happiness among Christians who have worked for a long time towards the development. Msukwa also noted that the new church has strengthened the relationship between the Christian community and other stakeholders, including traditional leaders and political leaders.
I'm very happy because we have spent a lot of time looking for this development. So this development has made this church to have a good relationship with the chiefs, with the MPs and other stakeholders. So I'm very happy.
Msukwa added that the community has put measures in place to ensure that the church is properly maintained, including organizing young people and establishing a duty roster for its upkeep. Bishop Mtumbuka has thanked the church in need, the local community, Father Jinura, and those who contributed towards the construction of the church. Reporting for Luntha Television in Karonga, this is Adams Mwenempembe.
The High Court in Lilongwe has rescheduled the bail hearing for Center for Democracy and Economic Development Initiative CDED Executive Director Sylvester Namiwa from Wednesday to Thursday this week. The change has been communicated to all parties involved in the case through a letter issued by the court. Charity Chiranga with the details.
Confirming the development, Namiwa's lawyer Gift Mwenye told Luntha Television that the court informed them that the hearing had been postponed because Wednesday's court schedule is expected to be busy.
Yes, I can confirm the hearing of the bail application for Mr. Sylvester Namiwa has been scheduled from Wednesday the 12th to Thursday the 13th of August at 10 o'clock. Therefore, the Honorable Court, as you will appreciate, the judge's diary is always full. The Honorable Court has managed to accommodate us on the next available date, which is a Thursday. So we are grateful to the Honorable Court.
Namiwa has been charged with treason and publication of false news likely to cause alarm. He is accused of committing the offences during an interview with Luntha Television in July this year.
Political expert Chimwemwe Tsitsi has warned that delays in funding the Malawi Electoral Commission make to conduct fresh elections could send the wrong message to voters and weaken public confidence in local government elections. Tsitsi says the situation is particularly concerning at a time when Malawi continues to experience low voter participation in local government elections, urging authorities to ensure that funding for by-elections is provided in good time. Judith Ogan reports.
Speaking to Luntha television, Tsitsi said local government by-elections are already affected by voter apathy, and failure to adequately fund such elections could further convince citizens that the polls are not important. He said government could consider strengthening the legal framework to ensure funding for by-elections is provided on time, with responsible officials held accountable for unnecessary delays.
Especially to the electorate within those specific wards, but at the same time to the general public concerning the significance of local government by-elections, because all along we've been worrying that as a country we are not doing very well in regard to local government by-elections. Usually during the local government by-elections we have voter apathy, and where those in authority also seem not to.
The concerns come as MEC is awaiting funding to conduct fresh polls, which are scheduled for September 29, 2026 in Sanje South and Mangochi East. MEC says the release of funds is essential for procuring election equipment and implementing critical activities ahead of the polls. MEC has also assured stakeholders that it remains committed to conducting the elections as scheduled, despite the funding concerns. For Luntha News in Longwe, this is Judith Ogan.
Energy expert Dr. Green Malunga has urged government to prioritize hydroelectric power generation for industries, saying the sector requires a stable and reliable supply of electricity. Dr. Malunga says while solar power can help meet electricity demand during the day, industries need a continuous power supply to sustain production. He was reacting to the commissioning of the 10-megawatt Salima solar power plant, which government says it is part of efforts to increase electricity generation and diversifies Malawi's energy sources. Gift Kalonga with the details.
Matanga on Monday commissioned the 10-megawatt Salima solar power plant constructed by the electricity generation company Ejenko. Speaking during the commissioning ceremony, Matanga said Malawi needs to increase its electricity generation capacity to meet growing demand. The Salima project is being implemented in phases, with the first phase generating 10 megawatts. Construction of the remaining 40 megawatts is expected to commence soon, bringing the plant's planned total capacity to 50 megawatts. The project will also include a 3.5 megawatt battery energy storage system, which Ejenko expects to install by the end of this year. In an interview with Luntha television, energy expert Dr. Green Malunga says solar plant will be particularly useful during the day when electricity demand is high, while the battery storage system will help provide electricity at night. However, he says more attention should be given to hydroelectric power for industries, which requires a stable and continuous supply of electricity.
Will be more significant during the day, because that's when the demand is, and at the same time, that is when
Meanwhile, social commentator Latimu Matenje has welcomed the commissioning of the solar power plant and other projects aimed at increasing electricity generation. Matenje, however, says increased generation capacity has not addressed persistent blackouts and is calling on government to establish more power plants to ensure a reliable supply of electricity across the country.
The places which supply more power is welcome because the development relies on power. So even Malawi.
The Salima solar power plant is part of government's broader efforts, together with Ejenko and other public institutions, to increase electricity generation and improve power supply. Government says it is also working to diversify the country's energy sources and reduce over-reliance on hydropower. The increased generation capacity is expected to support economic activities, including industrial production, while contributing to improved electricity supply in the country. For Luntha News in Lilongwe, this is Gift Kalonga.
You are watching news on Luntha Television. We'll be back after this short break.
Children's bus line inde anakwere basi lava ndipo zonse zili motere tsiku ndi pa 15 August 2026 mayendedwe ake ali motere pokumanana ndi kunyamukira ndi pa Maula Cathedral uyo kupita ku City Center kena kwa utali ku Bunda University ukwana kusangalala ndi kumva kuzuna kwa mayendedwe apa basi kuchokapo ana akaona zinyama zododomesa ku L&E Leisure Farm ndipo mtengo wake ndi 20,000 kwa jeuka basi mukafuna kulembesa apezo ena aphunzitsa atili tonse pa parish yanu. Mukafuna kuziwa zambiri ayimbireni foni Miss Gloria Chatima pa 0984 004 032 kapena Mr. Jimmy Chimalizeni pa 0995 730 529. Diocese of Lilongwe Children's Bus Ride ana sangalale mwambuye.
In case you are just joining us, remember you are watching news on Luntha Television and you're with me, Patrick Popper. But now, a reminder of our top stories. Pope Leo XIV to return to Our Lady of Good Counsel. High Court reschedules Namiwa bail hearing to Thursday. Political expert warns Malawi Electoral Commission funding delays for fresh elections could undermine voter confidence in local government polls. In other news, Zambia's President Hichilema rallies students ahead of Thursday's election. Moving on with our news, the Physicians Associates Union of Malawi PAUM has afforded the Minister of Health over what it described as a poor engagement with the professional health workers bodies in the country. PAUM chairperson Solomon Chomba says the lack of regular consultation is affecting the relationship between the Minister of Health workers unions. Emmanuel Chocha with the details.
Speaking to Luntha Television, Chomba said PAUM, which represents and advocate for the interest of professional healthcare workers, is ready to work with the government in addressing challenges facing the health sector. He has since called on the Minister of Health to restore regular consultation and dialogue within the Healthcare Workers Union, saying such engagement was common in the past. Chomba has also raised concern over what he described as lack of transparency in the ministry operations, particularly on issues affecting healthcare workers.
First and foremost, I would like to appreciate for the question that I posed. as professional bodies, duly registered, and who are the custodians of the healthcare workers in this country, we held of this news in papers, right, and not physically or from the ministry or even the minister herself. For your information, previously, what the system has been there, and what is also provided in the laws which are governing this professional body is contact and dialogue, sitting together, planning together, advising the ministry checks and balances.
Meanwhile, efforts to obtain a response from the Minister of Health spokesperson Benedict Mbewe were unsuccessful as he asked for more time to respond to the concerns raised by PAUM. The concerns come as the government moves to address the shortage of healthcare workers in the country. Minister of Health and Sanitation Madalitso Baloi announced on August 4, 2026 at Kasungu District Hospital that the government will recruit 2,500 healthcare workers. The recruitment is expected to help ease pressure caused by staff shortages and improve the delivery of health services across the country. However, PAUM says the recruitment alone may not address all the challenges facing the health sector, stressing that the need for meaningful and consistent engagement between government and professional healthcare workers.
The True Gospel Revival Church has announced plans to hold a major gospel crusade aimed at bringing Christians and members of the public together for prayer, worship, and evangelism. Speaking during a press briefing at Crossroads Hotel in Lilongwe, Bishop Philip Molinde said the crusade is part of the church's efforts to reach out to communities and strengthen the faith of Christians. Alison Banda reports.
Mulinde said the gathering will provide an opportunity for people to come together, seek God through prayer and worship, and share the message of the gospel. He has since called on Christians and members of the public to take part in the crusade, saying the church believes the event will help to strengthen the communities and have positive impact on the nation. The crusade will take place at Chilimampunga ground at Mtandile in Lilongwe. The church will also visit students at Kamuzu University of Health Sciences before holding another gathering on Saturday at the Bingu International Convention Center, BICC, starting at 12 p.m.
This gathering is about all the salvation of the souls in the country, and that's the heart of the man of God, the evangelist who is coming. This evangelist is from Togo, one of the countries in West Africa, and his name is Evangelist Paul Doji Nomovi. The crusade is taking place at Chilimampunga ground from 14th to 16th, and we have sideline programs like meeting the students at Kuhes on the 15th, conference with the pastors and church leaders at BICC in the morning, and in the evening, 14-15, we'll have the crusade at the Chilimampunga crusade ground, and on the 16th, that Sunday, the crusade will start 2 o'clock till late.
The church says the crusade is expected to bring together people from different backgrounds in a spirit of faith, unity, and worship. The crusade will be held under the theme, "Come unto me, you that labor and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest," from the Gospel of Matthew 11, verse 28. Reporting for Luntha Television in Lilongwe, I am Alison Banda.
In other news, with just days to go before Thursday's presidential election, Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema has intensified his campaign efforts seeking to rally support ahead of the crucial vote. Young people are expected to play a significant role in determining the outcome of the election, with nearly half of the registered voters aged between 18 and 35. We have an African News report read by Fales Kizombe.
On Monday, Hichilema took his campaign message to students in the capital, Lusaka, urging young people to actively participate in the electoral process and mobilize support for his candidature. Addressing the students, Hichilema encouraged them to campaign for his party and engage fellow young people in their communities. Hichilema is facing 13 other presidential candidates in the election. However, his main challenger, Brian Mondowile, has emerged as a strong contender after securing the backing of a coalition of opposition parties. The election is expected to be a closely watched contest, with voters set to decide whether Hichilema's economic reforms and policies deserve a second chance or whether the opposition can capitalize on growing public concerns over the high cost of living. Economic challenges, including the rising cost of basic commodities and the pressure on household incomes, have become key issues during the campaign, with opposition parties using the concerns to challenge the government's record. The vote will also be an important test of Zambia's reputation for political stability and democratic governance, following a campaign period that has been marked by pockets of political violence and heightened tensions. As the country heads towards polling day, both the ruling party and opposition groups are stepping up their mobilization efforts, particularly among young voters who could prove decisive in determining the next government.
And we now give you a weather report compiled by Tapiwa Kutakumoto.
Good evening, and it's time for weather forecast. Cool to mild conditions were experienced over most areas across the country, but very cold conditions were also experienced in some stations such as Karere Forest in Lilongwe, Mwazisi in Mzimba, and Mzuzu International Airport, which reported very cold conditions at 8 degrees Celsius, followed by Chikangawa in Mzimba, Chitedze in Lilongwe, and Maringunde, which reported 9 degrees Celsius. We are currently expecting cool to mild conditions to persist over most areas tonight and tomorrow in the morning hours, while generally warm conditions are expected tomorrow in the afternoon. We are also expecting windy conditions to persist over most land areas, while partly cloudy conditions will start developing over most areas from tomorrow in the morning hours. Mwela winds will also start blowing over our lake water bodies such as Lake Malawi and Lake Chirwa from tomorrow. Hence, we are advising all lake users, including fishermen, to be very observant. This is all due to the influence of this incoming high pressure system, which will be pumping in strong and moist southeasterlies into the country, influencing all these conditions. This is also why tonight clear skies are persisting over most areas in the south, the central as well as the northern part of the country, with few clouds starting to develop in some areas over the southern part of the country. Similar conditions are also expected tomorrow in the morning hours, accompanied by a chance of isolated rain showers in some areas over the southern part of the country. Temperatures are also expected to remain mild over most areas tomorrow in the morning hours, with Ngabu and Nsanje being forecasted at 20 degrees Celsius, 19 over Monkey Bay and Mangoshi, while generally cool conditions are expected to persist over the central and the northern part of the country. Looking into the afternoon hours of tomorrow, we should also expect partly cloudy conditions to persist over the southern part of the country, accompanied by a chance of isolated rain drizzles, while mostly sunny conditions will be persisting over the central and the north. Temperatures are also expected to remain hot tomorrow in the afternoon in some areas such as Ngabu, Nsanje, Mangoshi and Monkey Bay at 30 degrees Celsius, while generally warm conditions are expected over most parts in the south, the central as well as the northern part of the country. Looking into Thursday, we are expecting mostly cloudy conditions to persist over most areas in the south and then progressing towards the central and the northern part of the country, accompanied by a chance of isolated rain showers and windy conditions. I'm Tapiwa Kutakumoto. Be wise, be weather-wise.
With that weather report read and compiled by Tapiwa Kutakumoto, also brings us to the end of our news bulletin right here on Luntha Television. But before I go, top stories once again. Pope Leo XIV to return to Our Lady of Good Counsel. High Court reschedules Namiwa bail hearing to Thursday. Political expert warns Malawi Electoral Commission funding delays for fresh elections could undermine voter confidence in local government polls. In other news, Zambia's President Hichilema rallies students ahead of Thursday's election. Thank you for watching our news bulletin right here on Luntha Television. This has been Patrick Pooper. Goodbye and may God bless you.